The secret bakery of Willow Lane. Emma had always dreamed of opening her own bakery. Since she was a little girl, she would spend hours in her grandmother's kitchen, mixing flour, sugar, and butter, creating magical treats that made everyone smile. Her grandmother, Rosa, was a pastry chef from Italy who had moved to England decades ago. She taught Emma everything: how to knead dough with patience, how to decorate cakes with precision, and how to add a pinch of love to every recipe. Emma's favorite memory was the smell of freshly baked bread filling the house on cold winter mornings. She would sit on the counter, swinging her legs, watching her grandmother work her magic. Baking is not just about ingredients, Rosa would say. It is about heart. When you bake for someone, you give them a piece of your soul. Emma held on to those words for years. After finishing culinary school, she worked in several restaurants, learning different techniques and styles. But her dream was always the same: to open her own little bakery, a warm and cozy place where people could feel at home. She wanted to call it the secret bakery of Willow Lane, because her grandmother always said that the best recipes were kept secret and passed down through generations. Emma saved every penny she earned, working double shifts and living frugally. After 5 years, she finally had enough money to rent a small shop on Willow Lane, a quiet street in a charming old town. The shop was tiny and run down. The windows were dusty, the walls were cracked, and the floor was covered with old tiles that squeaked with every step. But Emma saw potential. She painted the walls a warm cream color, installed wooden shelves, and bought a beautiful glass display case for her cakes and pastries. She hung fairy lights around the windows and placed small potted plants on every table. The shop looked simple but inviting. She named it Sweet Whispers Bakery as a tribute to her grandmother, who always spoke softly when sharing her secret recipes. On the first day of opening, Emma woke up at 4 in the morning. She baked croissants, muffins, cookies, and a special lemon cake that was her grandmother's signature. She placed everything in the display case with great care, arranged the tables, and put fresh flowers in small vases. She stood behind the counter, wearing her white apron, ready to welcome her first customers. But nobody came. The morning passed, then the afternoon, then the evening. Emma watched people walk past her shop without even glancing inside. They were too busy, too distracted, or simply not interested. At the end of the day, Emma sat alone, staring at the unsold pastries. Her heart sank, but she did not give up. The next day, Emma tried something new. She baked a batch of her grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookies and placed a tray outside the shop with a sign that said, "Free sample. Try one and smile." She also put up a colorful chalkboard with the day's specials written in a cheerful font. Soon, a few curious pedestrians stopped, picked up a cookie, and smiled. A young mother with a toddler came in and bought a muffin. An elderly gentleman sat by the window with a cup of tea and a slice of lemon cake. At the end of the day, Emma had sold 15 items. It was not much, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Emma's smile and warm personality attracted regular customers. She remembered everyone's name and their favorite orders. Mr. Henderson came every morning for a blueberry muffin and coffee. Mrs. Chen came every afternoon for a green tea and a lavender shortbread cookie. The Fernandez twins, 2 mischievous boys, came after school for a chocolate brownie and would always ask for an extra one to share with their mother. Emma even started a small loyalty card system. Buy 10 items and get one free. The customers loved it. The bakery began to feel like a community hub, a place where people gathered not just to eat, but to connect. But the biggest change came when Emma decided to host a weekly story time and cookies event. Every Saturday afternoon, she would bake a special batch of cookies and read a story to the children of the neighborhood. The first week, only 3 children showed up. Emma read a story about a magical forest and gave each child a cookie shaped like a star. The children's eyes lit up with joy. The second week, 8 children came. The third week, there were 15. The parents began to wait outside, chatting with each other while their children enjoyed the stories. The bakery became a place of laughter, imagination, and friendship. One afternoon, a young woman named Lucy walked into the bakery. She had curly red hair and freckles, and she looked shy and a little lost. She had moved to the town recently and had not made many friends yet. Emma welcomed her with a warm smile and offered her a slice of lemon cake. Lucy sat at a corner table and took a bite. Her eyes widened. "This is the best lemon cake I have ever had," she said. Emma smiled and sat down with her. They started talking, and Emma learned that Lucy was a graphic designer who worked from home. She felt lonely and invisible, just as Emma had felt when she first moved to the town. Emma remembered her grandmother's words: "When you bake for someone, you give them a piece of your soul." She decided to be a friend to Lucy. The next week, Lucy returned to the bakery with a sketchbook. She showed Emma some drawings she had made, beautiful designs of cakes, cookies, and cupcakes. "I could design your menus and posters," Lucy offered shyly. Emma was thrilled. She hired Lucy to create new branding for the bakery, including a beautiful logo with a whisk and a heart. Lucy's designs were bright, cheerful, and full of personality. Customers loved the new look, and Emma put the drawings on the walls as decorations. The bakery looked more inviting than ever. A few months later, Emma decided to enter the local baking competition. It was a big event, with participants from all over the region. The prize was a golden whisk trophy and a feature in a popular food magazine. Emma was nervous, but Lucy encouraged her. "You are the best baker I know," Lucy said. "You have to try." Emma spent weeks perfecting her recipe for the competition. She chose her grandmother's lemon cake, but with a secret twist. She added a lavender and honey glaze that made it even more special. She practiced every day, adjusting the ingredients until the flavor was perfect. Lucy helped her create a beautiful display stand and designed a stunning recipe card. On the day of the competition, Emma arrived at the venue with her cake. She placed it on the table, her heart pounding with anticipation. There were dozens of contestants, all with amazing creations. The judges walked around, tasting every entry, taking notes, and discussing among themselves. Emma watched nervously. She thought about her grandmother, about the hours they had spent together in the kitchen, about all the love that had gone into every recipe. She closed her eyes and whispered, "For you, Grandma." The judging took hours. When the announcement came, Emma could hardly breathe. The judges called her name. They said that her cake was not just delicious, but it had a story. It had heart. It was the perfect balance of sweetness, lightness, and creativity. The golden whisk trophy was placed in her trembling hands. Emma cried tears of joy. Lucy was in the audience, cheering loudly. The crowd applauded, and Emma felt like she was walking on clouds. That night, Emma returned to her bakery with the trophy and a newfound confidence. She gathered her friends and regular customers for a small celebration. Mr. Henderson brought champagne. Mrs. Chen brought flowers. The Fernandez twins brought a giant card they had made, filled with colorful drawings and kind words. Lucy gave Emma a framed picture of the bakery logo she had designed, with a note that said, "To the baker with the biggest heart." Emma looked around at the people who had become her family. She thought about how far she had come, from a lonely, dusty shop to a vibrant community space filled with laughter and joy. The next week, Emma started a new tradition at the bakery. She would always keep a plate of free cookies on the counter for anyone who looked like they needed a smile. She also began teaching baking classes on Sunday afternoons. Lucy was her first student. Together, they baked loaves of bread, batches of brownies, and trays of beautiful decorated cookies. Lucy found that she loved baking too. It made her feel creative and happy. She started spending more time at the bakery, even helping Emma serve customers. Their friendship grew stronger every day. And then, one morning, something incredible happened. Emma received a letter from the food magazine that had featured the competition. They wanted to do a full article on her bakery, focusing on her story and her connection to the community. They would send a photographer to take pictures of the shop, the customers, and the delicious treats. Emma was overjoyed. When the article was published, the bakery became famous overnight. People came from nearby towns to taste her famous lemon cake. The little shop on Willow Lane was always full of customers, laughter, and love. Emma never forgot her grandmother's words. Every single day, she baked with heart. She gave pieces of her soul to everyone who walked through her door. The secret bakery of Willow Lane was no longer a dream. It was a reality, a place where stories were shared, friendships were made, and kindness was always on the menu. And Emma? She was no longer just a baker. She was a storyteller, a friend, and a source of joy for an entire community. As she stood behind the counter one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky through the windows, Emma smiled. She felt grateful for every step of her journey, the struggles, the doubts, the tiny victories, and the wonderful people who had walked into her life. She looked at the golden wisp trophy on the shelf, next to a framed photo of her grandmother. "I did it, Grandma," she whispered. "I made our dream come true." And she knew that her grandmother was smiling down from somewhere above, proud of the baker she had raised and the legacy she had passed on. The bakery continues to thrive to this day. Every afternoon, the smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries drifts through Willow Lane, drawing people in like a warm hug. The children still come for story time on Saturdays, and Lucy now teaches art classes in the corner of the shop. The community has become closer than ever, united by the simple, beautiful act of sharing food made with love. And Emma, the girl who once dreamed of opening a bakery, has become the heart and soul of the neighborhood. She has learned that dreams do come true, but only if you have the courage to chase them, the patience to wait for the right moment, and the love to share with others along the way. One day, a young girl named Sophie walked into the bakery with her mother. Sophie was about 10 years old, with big, curious eyes and a shy smile. She looked at the display case with wonder, pointing at the colorful cakes and cookies. Emma noticed her and came around the counter. "Would you like to try a special cookie?" she asked. Sophie nodded. Emma gave her a star-shaped cookie with purple icing. Sophie took a bite, and her face lit up with joy. "This is the best cookie I have ever had," she exclaimed. Emma laughed and invited Sophie and her mother to sit down. They talked for a while, and Emma learned that Sophie loved to bake with her own grandmother. She told Sophie about her grandmother Rosa and showed her the framed photo on the shelf. Sophie listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the story. From that day on, Sophie became a regular visitor to the bakery. She would come after school, sit at the same corner table, and draw pictures of cakes and cookies. Emma watched her with a warm heart. She saw a spark in Sophie's eyes, the same spark she had felt as a child. One Saturday, after the storytime event, Sophie approached Emma with a serious expression. "Emma," she said, "when I grow up, I want to be a baker just like you. Can you teach me?" Emma smiled and knelt down to Sophie's level. "I would love to teach you," she said, "but you have to promise me something." Sophie leaned in. "What?" she asked. Emma looked into her eyes and said, "Promise me that you will always bake with heart, that you will always share your treats with kindness, and that you will never forget that the secret ingredient is always love." Sophie nodded solemnly and extended her pinky finger. Emma wrapped her pinky around Sophie's. "It's a promise," Sophie said. That Sunday, Sophie became Emma's youngest student in the baking class. She was small, but she was eager. She learned how to measure flour, how to cream butter and sugar, and how to pipe icing onto cookies. She made many mistakes. She dropped an egg on the floor, she added too much vanilla, and she burned one batch of cookies. But Emma was patient and encouraging. "Every mistake is a lesson," she would say. "The best bakers learn from their errors." Sophie absorbed every word. With each class, she grew more confident and skilled. By the end of the summer, she could bake a perfect batch of chocolate chip cookies all by herself. One afternoon, Sophie arrived at the bakery with a big smile. She carried a small box wrapped in colorful paper. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Emma. Emma opened the box carefully. Inside was a small jar of homemade strawberry jam, with a handwritten label that said, "For the best baker in the world. Love, Sophie." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She hugged Sophie tightly. "This is the sweetest gift I have ever received," she whispered. "Thank you, Sophie." From that moment on, their bond grew even stronger. Sophie became like a little sister to Emma, and Emma became like a big sister to her. The years passed, and the bakery continued to flourish. Emma expanded the shop, adding more tables and a small outdoor seating area. She hired a few employees to help with the growing business. But she never lost the personal touch that made her bakery special. She still remembered every customer's name and order. She still kept a plate of free cookies on the counter. She still taught baking classes every Sunday. And every Saturday, she still gathered the children for story time, reading tales of adventure, magic, and friendship. Lucy, too, found her place in the world. She became a successful artist, with her work featured in local galleries. She continued to design the bakery's menus and posters, but she also started selling her own artwork in the shop. The bakery had become a mini art gallery, showcasing Lucy's beautiful drawings of cakes, flowers, and happy faces. She and Emma remained best friends, supporting each other through every challenge and celebration. They often sat together at the end of the day, sipping tea and talking about their dreams. Lucy once asked Emma, "Do you ever regret anything?" Emma thought for a moment and then shook her head. "Not a single thing," she said. "Every struggle, every sleepless night, every tear was worth it, because it led me here, to this place, to this family." Meanwhile, Mr. Henderson had become a regular fixture at the bakery. He was always there in the morning, reading his newspaper and sipping his coffee. He had lost his wife a few years earlier and had been lonely ever since. The bakery became his home away from home. Emma always made sure to have his blueberry muffin ready. Mrs. Chen had also become a dear friend. She often brought her students to the bakery for special treats and used Emma's baking as a teaching tool for her classes. The Fernandez twins had grown up, but they still visited every week, always bringing their signature humor and energy. The bakery had truly become the heart of Willow Lane. It was a place where people came not just for food, but for connection. Strangers became friends, friends became family, and the whole neighborhood thrived. Emma often thought about her grandmother Rosa and how proud she would be. She had built something beautiful from scratch, with nothing but passion, determination, and love. On the 5th anniversary of the bakery, Emma decided to host a big celebration. She invited everyone who had been part of her journey, the regular customers, the children from Storytime, the students from her baking classes, and all her friends. The street was decorated with bunting, balloons, and fairy lights. Emma baked a giant cake in the shape of the bakery, complete with tiny fondant details of the shop, the gazebo, and even Machi, the cat who had become the bakery's unofficial mascot. Everyone gathered in the garden, laughing, eating, and sharing memories. Lucy gave a heartfelt speech about how Emma had changed her life. Sophie, now a teenager, spoke about how Emma had inspired her to pursue her dreams. Mr. Henderson raised his glass and toasted to the baker with the biggest heart. As the evening came to an end, Emma stood alone in the middle of the garden, looking at all the happy faces around her. She thought about the dusty, empty shop she had rented all those years ago. She thought about the first day when nobody came, and how she had almost given up. She thought about the tiny victories, the growing number of customers, the friendships she had made, and the family she had built. She felt a deep sense of peace and gratitude. She had done it. She had created not just a bakery, but a legacy. And she knew that the story of the secret bakery of Willow Lane would continue for many generations to come. From that day forward, Emma made a decision. She would write down all her grandmother's recipes and compile them into a cookbook. She wanted to share Rosa's legacy with the world. She spent months working on it, testing each recipe, writing detailed instructions, and adding personal stories and memories. Lucy designed the cover, and Sophie illustrated the pages. The cookbook was titled Baking with Heart: The Secret Recipes of Willow Lane. When it was published, it became a local bestseller. People from all over the country bought it, and Emma received letters from readers who had been inspired by her story. They told her that they had started baking with their own children, that they had found joy in the kitchen, and that they had learned to share kindness through food. Emma realized that her grandmother's wisdom had reached far beyond the walls of the bakery. It had touched hearts all over the world. She felt a deep connection to her grandmother, as if Rosa was still with her, guiding her, cheering her on. She decided to start a foundation, a charity that taught baking to underprivileged children. She believed that everyone deserved to learn the joy of creating something with their own hands. With the help of her community, she raised funds and launched classes in schools and community centers. Sophie, now a young adult, became the foundation's first teacher, passing on the lessons she had learned from Emma. As the years passed, Emma grew older, but her spirit remained young. Her hair turned silver, and her hands became a little less steady, but her passion for baking never faded. She still woke up early every morning, still mixed dough with care, and still shared her treats with a smile. The bakery was now managed by a team of dedicated employees, but Emma was always there, sitting in her favorite corner, watching the world go by. She saw new generations of children come to story time, new customers become regulars, new friendships form around her tables. The secret bakery of Willow Lane was no longer just a place. It was a symbol of hope, kindness, and love. One winter evening, as snow began to fall softly outside the bakery window, Emma sat with her tea, looking at the framed photo of her grandmother. She smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Grandma, for everything." She closed her eyes and felt a warmth spread through her chest. She knew that her grandmother was with her, always, and she knew that the story she had built would continue long after she was gone. The secret bakery of Willow Lane was eternal because it was built on something far stronger than bricks and mortar. It was built on heart. Emma passed away peacefully a few years later, at the age of 82. The town mourned her loss, but they celebrated her life. The bakery remained open, run by Lucy and Sophie, who had become its new guardians. They kept Emma's traditions alive: the free cookies, the story time, the baking classes, and the warm, welcoming atmosphere. The golden wisp trophy still sat on the shelf, next to Rosa's photo, as a reminder of where it all began. And every day, the smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries continued to drift through Willow Lane, bringing comfort and joy to all who passed by. The legacy of Emma and her grandmother lived on in every cookie, every cake, and every smile. It lived on in the hearts of the community, in the kindness shared between strangers, and in the dreams of young bakers who walked through the bakery's door. The secret bakery of Willow Lane was proof that the sweetest things in life are not made with sugar and flour, but with love, courage, and a little bit of magic. And that story will never end.